But I want to just bring my attention now to Kevin Wright. He's going to talk to you about recycle your cash and ninja investments throughout tonight's webinar. I've met Kevin a long time ago in terms of my property education and getting involved in property. I've got a number of single lets, HMOs, and we've done property development. But one of the things I've always struggled with is getting cash out of our existing portfolio to reinvest in our portfolio itself, to expand it, to develop it. And a number of clients are also finding that kind of same issue whereby they invest their money and yet they feel like they're stopping, or they've got this stop-start situation because they run out of money. They're not sure where to get their money out of. And Kevin's hopefully going to shed some light with us into tonight's webinar. So good evening, Kevin. How are you this evening?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, very good, Simon. Thank you. Yeah.
So you've obviously got two companies. So do you want to give it a bit of background to your particular companies that you run?
Yeah, sure. With Positive Property Finance, which is one company, and they're a finance brokerage, and we deal exclusively with investors. So whatever type of finance you want, being an investor, then we broker that. So you know, buy-to-let mortgages, commercial, HMOs, and you know, right through to bridging and development. So yeah, we can do all of that. And the other company is my training company, which is Invisible Investors, and that's where I train people to intelligently finance their properties, and it's you know, it's where I teach the concept of recycle your cash, which is one of my brand names, and that's about, you know, you can say it in several ways. It's about punching above your weight. It's about doing bigger deals than you're normally able to do with the same amount of resources. It's about minimizing the cash you put in and maximizing the speed that you get it back out again. So yeah, it's about intelligently financing your property deals, really.
Okay. And in terms of, it's nice how we can do this webinar, and thanks for joining us with that. For the rest of the people that are listening in, make sure that you write your questions down as we go along, and I will ask Kevin those questions. I've obviously got my own set of questions, which I won't going to go through, but if you do have questions as you go through this webinar, make sure you do write them down, and I will ask Kevin those very questions. So I'm just going to move my screen because it's not allowing me to do that, so let's just go a sec. Here we go. So what is it you do then, Kevin, and how do you particularly help our property investors?
Yeah. Okay. So as I said, it's all around property finance. We have a property finance brokerage, as I just explained, and then I train people to be better and more intelligent in the way they finance their properties. So I think, you know, there are a multitude of different property strategies, you know, from HMOs to serviced accommodation to single lets to commercial conversions, you know, and you know, any other one you want to throw in there. And pretty much every one, its viability depends on being able to finance it. In fact, there's a forum called the Property Hub. So people might know of that. And it asks, when you join it, it asks you a question. You know, what do you see as your biggest barrier to achieving your goals in property? And 9 out of 10 people, so the organisers tell me, say access to finance. So you know, it's the critical thing, and we make it simpler for you to finance your property deals.
Okay, and that's like you say. I think I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, Kevin, is that we always struggled because we would earn money as employees back in the day, and we would put money into that property, and it'd be 25%. Wouldn't be a lot of money, but you know, it'd be 25,000, 30,000 pounds. You can't do that every week, and that is always going to be a struggle.
Yeah, that's right. You know, it's you know, there's a phrase called momentum investing. That's you know, what it refers to is taking a lump sum of money, putting that into a property, or at least some of it into a property, but critically, within a matter of months, getting it back out again. So you can use it in your next property deal without having to save up another 25%. Yeah. You know, that's really the way that, you know, intelligent investing is done.
No, it's a good point. And, you know, let's go all the way back, Kevin, because it's always good to know where people started in their business. How did it all get started, and when did it get started for you?
Yeah, I started as a financial advisor, you know, back 26 years ago. And worked for a big insurance company for 10 years. And then they shut down, so I started my own business. Focused as time went on more and more on mortgage broking across the market, you know, including main residence buyers. That all came crashing down with the credit crunch, because credit crunch, if anyone was involved in property at the time, then the way you were buying property stopped overnight, and the way you were financing it stopped overnight. You know, that was a big challenge for me, resurrecting my business with the business model that I have now. And so for the last probably 10 years, I've been focusing exclusively on people that invest in property. The training business, Invisible Investors, that started really from me being invited to speak at property meetings, doing an hour's talk about the recycle your cash concept, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and people coming up to me at the end of the talk, you know, and being very enthusiastic about it and asking me where they could really come and learn it. And I mean, sometimes I'm a bit slow, but for a while I thought, well, I've just taught it to you. You know, I've just spent an hour teaching it to you, but you know, but they wanted more in-depth learning. Now, where can we really come and learn it? So in 2013, I started doing what was then one-day workshops. They progressed to now, you know, as the content has expanded, to 2, and now for 2018 to 3-day workshops. Do a foundation level 1-day workshop to introduce people to that, and I do a 12-month mentorship that sits on top of the 3-day workshop. So there's a progression there, you know, for what people want to do. That's how it started, or that's how both businesses started, really.
Okay. Interesting, the words recycle your cash. I mean, from your perspective, let's just take a property that we might have as a HMO. We put in a deposit. From your perspective, just boiling it down to a few kind of sentences, but what does recycle your cash really mean? You put your deposit in, you're sitting on it. So what does recycle your cash really mean?
Yeah, okay. It's about how you identify a deal that gives you the opportunity to pull your cash out. Okay. There are really only 2 things that make it, should we say, an investment rather than a purchase. Because I mean, anyone really can go and buy a property on the open market, put 25% down, get a buy-to-let mortgage, and put a tenant in, or put multiple tenants in. Now, and that works to a degree, but all it's really going to do is to eat up that cash. That cash sits in there, and then, as you were saying earlier, you've got to save up another 25%. So it's about identifying what makes an investment deal, and there are 2 characteristics really, preferably both, but at least one of them needs to be there, and the first one is the ability to buy it below its true current value, and the second one is the ability to add value. So going back to the first one now, ability to buy below true current value. So, you know, on Rightmove at any one time, there's probably the best part of 1 million properties for sale in the UK. You know, and you can be sure that every single person that's put their property on Rightmove through an agent wants to sell it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put it up there. But the key to it is there are a small number, probably less than 10% of those, that don't just want to sell their property, they need to sell their property. And there could be a number of reasons for that: health reasons, family reasons, employment reasons, relationship reasons. So, you know, the rest of Rightmove can wait 6, 9, 12 months to get the price they want. But these small band of people that need to sell it, they can't. then needs more acute. So if you can buy it below current value, that's great. What you really must do is buy a property you can add value to it, because you can only recycle your cash if you can make it worth more than it was when you bought it. Usually it's by doing some work on it, but it could be by converting it, by getting planning permission for it, so some other thing that would add value to it. And then it's about getting it refinanced at that uplifted value, and it's that refinance at the uplifted value which should give you your deposit back, or a proportion of your deposit back.
Gotcha. And that's nicely concise in terms of what it's all about. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Sure.
In terms of your own personal business, what challenges have you had in business, and how have you overcome them? You know, it's been well publicized, you know, particular situation, and I'm not going to spoil those for the people that are listening in, but please tell us the story that you've gone through yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, two big challenges really. I think the collapse of my business model at the credit crunch, and then you know, choosing not to do what 4 out of 5 mortgage brokers did, and quit, but just find a different business model that worked, and actually bringing that to the point where it is today. So that's one challenge that I've successfully overcome. The other one, it wasn't really a business challenge, but it could impact on your business, and that's a health challenge. So in 2016, I got diagnosed with a form of cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Out of 4 possible stages, I was at stage 3, so it was already advanced, and because of where it was inoperable. Now, how did I handle that? Well, I used the training and the knowledge from, you know, many years of working on mindset, positivity, and that type of thing, to know that you know, how I thought about it and how I felt about it could have a large influence on the outcome I got. So I decided it would be a 3-pronged approach: mind, diet, and medicine, in that order of importance. So yeah, I took some chemotherapy, but I significantly changed my diet to make it my body in hospital with cancer, and but I did a lot of work with my mind using the techniques that I'd learned in previous years, and it you know, it's fair to say that I got a result from that. I had a scan before I started the chemotherapy. I had a scan after 3 sessions, which was about 8 weeks. And in that 8 weeks, I got rid of 90% of it. And, you know, with a few more sessions of chemo, got rid of the rest of it. 2 other interesting aspects of that was, you know, you hear about all these debilitating side effects that you get with chemotherapy. I didn't get any. And I didn't take any days off sick either. I just worked normally. It wasn't me being brave or foolhardy. It was just I didn't feel ill, and if I felt healthy, you know, I mean, okay, I was having chemotherapy, but you know, if I felt healthy, why not keep working? So there we are. And now I'm in my 2nd year remission, and it was a very interesting experience.
Interesting is he's putting it mildly, I rather suspect. I mean, we spoke about it when you're just through the recovery phases, and I recall having a conversation with you about Napoleon Hill. I actually came and see you in Lincoln.
Yes.
You know, talk to you about the kind of stuff that I've seen from your obviously posts and your experiences. But you're right, it's down to, you know, the mindset. The first thing I've heard about it is when Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, talked about his son who was deaf. Yes. And was told he would never be able to hear. And also then, after years of believing it, even though the doctors disavowed him, he pretty much was hearing at 40, 50%. So it's incredible what the mind can do. And you're a testament to that. And I called you the modern day Napoleon Hill.
Thank you. Yeah. It's I think there's a very interesting thing I read about Thomas Edison, you know, the famous inventor. he got sent as a young boy. He got sent home with a note from the school to his mother in a sealed envelope, and told not to open it and give it to her. And his mother read it, didn't show it to him, but said, "Oh, Thomas, it says that actually you're so intelligent they can't teach you at the school anymore. I'm going to have to teach you myself." And he went on to have the life that we all know he had, a famous inventor and everything else. And his mother died, and when he was clearing out her stuff, actually he found the letter. He found this letter, and for the first time as an adult, he read the letter.
Mm.
And it said, "Dear Mrs. Edison, please don't bring your son back to school anymore. He's mentally deficient, and he'll never amount to anything in his life, so we can't teach him anything."
Wow. Wow. How ironic is that? That is fascinating. It just goes to show, doesn't it? It does,
yeah.
So now it's 2018. There's been a number of changes from our side. We see Section 24. Yep. We obviously see the capital gains tax and the poke in the eye that George Osborne gave us before he finally left us alone. And then, there's the kind of 145% loan to value kind of issues, Brexit. Yep. There's so many things. I mean, what changes have you seen of late?
Well, there is a constant stream of change, and it's being driven by the government through the Treasury, through the regulators. And I think, and you've mentioned Section 24, which you're very involved in from a tax point of view. But I think there's an underlying thread beyond all of it, or behind all of it. And it's that there is now investment mortgages are now a major part of the UK housing economy. In fact, probably 1 in 5 mortgages, taken out are an investment mortgage. Now, going back, I don't know, 3, 4, most possibly 5 years, the Treasury mandarins began to see this as a significant risk. In other words, if there was a downturn, or if there was a major event that caused landlords to in their masses leave the market and dump a load of properties on their properties on the market, it could destabilize the property market, which in turn destabilize the economy. So they see this as a potential risk. So everything you've seen coming out, these changes, amendments, and everything else is the underlying aim is to de-risk that from the UK economy. Right. So Section 24 and the changing of the income multiple, or the rental multiple, as you said, from 125 to 140, and the 3% stamp duty. It's all geared to mitigating the risk of the investment, the private rented sector on the UK economy. Now, the latest thing to come in is the Portfolio Landlord Directive.
Right.
Now, that's effectively coming down from the Treasury, effectively divided landlords into two groups, amateur and professional, if you want to phrase it like that, but not that doesn't mean full-time or part-time, because you can be amateur and full-time. It's not the time you put into property, it's the number of properties you own. Now, the dividing line is 3 properties. This has been designated. So 3 properties or less, you're an amateur, a landlord. Of 3 properties or 4 properties or more, you're a professional landlord, regardless of whether you're full-time or part-time.
It doesn't take a lot then, does it, really?
Not really. Not really. So, 4 properties or more, and you're deemed to be a professional landlord. Now, what that means is there's a change in how your mortgage application is underwritten. If you're 3 or less, so if you're still an amateur, no change. it's just as it was. And essentially, it's do you earn X amount a year outside of property, and does the rent cover the mortgage, and some on top. No change there. The change is for portfolio landlords of 4 or more properties. Now, and you probably know this well from your side, Simon, that if anyone has needed to get a business loan for their business, i.e., if they wanted to buy some new stock or machinery or something like that, and they want a bank loan for it, they have to, there's a whole load of things they have to provide to their bank to get a business loan. So things like a business plan, cash flow forecast, asset and liability statement, probably tax returns, maybe historical cash flow too. So all of those things, anyone that's been used to applying for business loans, this would be very familiar stuff. Now, the change is all of that has been brought into making a mortgage application.
Wow. I mean, you would have thought that'd be the role reversal, given if you're an amateur, you'd expect a bit more business planning because you haven't done it before. After maybe 4, 5, 10 properties, you kind of know what you're doing. It's just an interesting how they've done it, the role reversal.
It is, isn't it? But that's clearly the thing. So I guess they think, bigger landlords, there could be a bigger potential risk. So they need to de-risk that. So, the next time as a portfolio landlord you apply for a mortgage, you will need to supply all those things: business plan, cash flow forecast, asset and liability statement, blah, blah, blah. And lenders will underwrite it. Now, the difference is they're not underwriting in isolation the property you want to get a mortgage on, your latest acquisition. They are underwriting it you holistically as a business.
Sure.
So what they're saying is, okay, how is your business? How heavily is your business geared? Is it over geared? Is there too little equity across your portfolio? So what's your cash flow like? Is there any business risk that we can see there? And where do you see your business going? What does your business plan tell us about where you see the next 1 to 5 years? So now the two implications for that. One is unexpectedly or not unexpectedly, cases are taking longer to underwrite.
Right.
Because they've got to go through all these additional processes. And secondly is that just because you apply for a 70%, 75% product doesn't mean you can borrow 75%.
Okay.
Because now they're going to say, if we give you 75%, we think that's actually a risk to your whole portfolio. So maybe we need to scale this back to this one to maybe 60%.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of people that buying properties, once they get to 3 or 4, could actually be pushed to the back of the queue because they've got a lot more legislation, paperwork to go through now.
So and there's one lender that's adopting a policy that they said, well, up to 10 properties, we're okay if you're geared at 75% across the portfolio. But once you get above 10, we don't want you to be more than 65% geared across your portfolio.
I see.
So there's so I think the upshot is that for a portfolio landlord, certainly more hoops to jump through. And I'm not suggesting that everyone would be knocked down to less than the product they were applying for, but it's certainly a possibility. So that's a major change that's kicked in since October, and is now playing out now.
Okay.
So quite what the implications are of that remain to be seen, but certainly I think it's going to be hitting sellers, and it's going to be hitting estate agents. Now, the estate agents that I talk to, their business plan for their business is, and has been broadly a 3-month time lag between offer accepted and completion of the sale.
Right.
Now, if portfolio landlord underwriting is slowing everything down, that's going to affect agents' cash flow. Because instead of 3 months, it could be 4 or 5, or in some cases 6 months for a completion. So agents are going to be, I think, having some difficulty in some of these sales, and sellers are going to get more frustrated as well, because the mortgage seems to be taking forever now. As every cloud has its silver lining. I think there's a great opportunity here.
Well, let's come on to the opportunities,
okay,
because that's a good point. We'll hold that one just there. But okay. I mean, that does lend itself to the next question. Really, is you've got obviously a huge client portfolio. You help a lot of people. What are the most successful property investors doing, and what can our clients learn from them?
Well, I wouldn't say there's any one particular strategy that people are doing more successfully than others. There's still this diversity of strategies. People are doing. People tend to adopt the strategy that fits their personality better. So someone that wants an easy life would probably have a single lets. Someone that wants to be a bit more hands-on might run HMOs, and someone that wants to be even more hands-on might run serviced accommodation. So I think people are still running the strategies that most suit their personality and lifestyle. But I think the opportunity now is what people are doing is they're trying to get away from being mortgage dependent on purchasing a property. So if portfolio landlord is going to drag them down and potentially lose them deals because sellers just get fed up with waiting and put it on and put it back on the market. I think people are choosing non-standard financing as a way of purchasing quickly, and maybe purchasing more advantageously price-wise as well, because if they can complete without a mortgage and the time lag that takes, they become more valuable not only to sellers but to agents as well.
Do you think there may be more investors that choose to buy in cash and then refinance maybe after 6 months once they've added value to a property?
Yeah, I think cash is one thing, and I think there's two sorts of cash. There's yours or someone else's, and I guess fewer people have got hundreds of thousands of pounds just sitting around to throw into properties. Clearly some have, but I think they would be a minority. So the people that haven't, some of them are just using private money from people they know that are not actively necessarily invested in property, but just want a better return on their money. So they are buying in cash, but it's not theirs; it's someone else's, and they've probably got some sort of preferential loan arrangement that gives them access to money at a reasonable cost and gives the owner of the money a better return than sitting passively in the bank. So I think that's cash is certainly another one, and the other way to do it is with bridging finance. That's an accepted way of purchasing quickly without all of your own cash, and sidestepping the portfolio landlord rules, at least temporarily, because once you've added the value, you will now need to refinance and go through the portfolio landlord underwriting initiative. But the crucial thing is you own the property, and if you're the owner, you might get a bit frustrated with the time that it's taken to refinance it, but it's not going to lose you the property because you've already bought it.
I mean, you mentioned earlier at the beginning of this session that you can help clients, and you talked about bridging finance. So let's just give a scenario here. But if I found a property and it was 150, 200,000 pounds, I didn't want to go through the issue of getting a mortgage, because exactly that's the issue. I'm going to be thrown into this kind of, well, you have to wait until we go through this application, but I might lose a sale. How might you step in and say, well, we can get this done a lot quicker?
Yeah, simply by using our vast experience of brokering bridging loans. I mean, in recent years, we've brokered hundreds, literally hundreds, of all types of situations. So we would just find you the most appropriate bridger and allow you to purchase, much more quickly, typically within 4 weeks, although, whether we hit 4 weeks, whether it's quicker or whether it's slower, is largely dependent on the speed your solicitor wants to work at. But the lenders are certainly geared up to work, in pretty short time frames. And that would be the way we was do on the brokerage side. Now, the issue with bridging is most people haven't used it, so it's a bit of an unfamiliar beast, and it comes with a, shall we say, a fearsome reputation in terms of its cost. But like most things, you just need someone to walk you through it that knows what they're doing, and that simplifies an unfamiliar procedure. And certainly on the education side, I mentor people on that, so that they they're not on their own on that. So I give them the basics on how the bridging loans are set up, and analyze the deal for them as well. Do a lot of that, analyzing the deal. So does it actually meet your objective? What is your objective, and does the deal meet it?
Okay. So if people get stuck, basically, they should come and try and find you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we talked about risks in the property. I mean, we talked about largely legislation and tax matters and stuff. Are there any other risks that we need to be aware of? And again, is there anything you could do to help them de-risk? Well,
I guess that depends on the strategies you're running. Now, clearly, I mean, we've got Brexit looming. We don't yet know what the fallout on that is going to be. There's an element of uncertainty there. Now, I think those people that are most at risk if there's a downturn in property with Brexit are those people that are operating a buy-to-sell property policy.
Right.
So buy a property, and sell it for a higher price. Having done any number of different things to it, or maybe just not done anything to it, just bought it well and sell it at a higher price. Now, those short-term transactions, are at the risk of market sentiment. If market takes a downturn midway through your project, that's a risk. But for people that are operating a buy and hold strategy, I think the risks are mitigated because, okay, perhaps there will be a downturn after Brexit. There might not be, but if there was, and you're holding property, it's just a paper downturn. It's a paper loss or a paper diminishment of your profit. And until you actually sell it, you don't crystallize the loss or gain. So, if your intention is to buy a property, rent it out for a number of years, then I think that there's nothing new about this. The risk of a falling property market doesn't really affect you as long as you've got no intention to sell, as long as people want to rent, and there's no indication that the rental market is decreasing in terms of demand by any means. So I think I think the biggest risk at the moment is possibly running a buy and sell strategy. But if you can mitigate that by buying at the right price, and possibly have a plan B. One of the things I always say to anyone investing in property is always have a plan B, and if you can, have a plan C too. But a plan B would be, if in a downturn, if you couldn't sell it, then get a mortgage, rent it out.
Okay, which kind of brings us on to, let's not look at the downsides because it's so easy to look at the negatives, but what are the opportunities that you've seen in the marketplace, and again, how can you help them?
Yeah, well, in terms of investing in property, even though it's much derided in the media, the private rental sector is absolutely vital to the UK economy. Without the private rented sector filling the gap, and private landlords, bigger and smaller ones, filling the gap, the need for rental properties in this country would be disastrous. Central government can't fill the gap, local authorities can't fill the gap, and there is an ever increasing need to rent property. We've seen a massive increase in the private rented sector, and that wouldn't have happened if the demand wasn't there. We're told that I think we need something like about 300,000 new houses a year. We're not building them, but the demand for housing and the demand for somewhere to live is rising inexorably, and I don't really see any change in that. It's lifestyles are changing and have been changing for a number of years. The number of people that want, single people that want their own accommodation has grown substantially. For a number of reasons, with the increased breakup of marriage and relationships, and the additional people that are coming to live in the country every year. We've got roughly a 250,000 extra people a year that all need places to live. And if they're coming into the country, they're not going to have the credit history that's going to allow them to buy a property. So what do? Rent.
The island's not getting small. The island's not getting bigger, is it, Kevin? Let's be fair.
So I think the opportunity is to invest in property is as big and large and great as it's ever been. And how can I and we help them? Well, two ways: by brokering the mortgages and the finance that they need, and by me teaching them how to make those investments in a more intelligent manner, or finance those intelligence in a more intelligent manner.
And in terms of the particular course, obviously the services, people can come to you anytime about your financing and mortgaging, whatever, bridge finance. But in terms of your property course, obviously we don't run property courses, but there are clients of ours looking for education. Is there any particular one-day offer that you have on that we can put on our group?
Yeah, sure. It's the Recycle Your Cash Property Finance Masterclass. There's no doubt you'll give the address, which is rycmasterclass.co.uk, and on there you'll find different locations: Bristol, Birmingham, London, Leeds, Glasgow, and these meetings are held throughout the year. They're on a Friday or a Saturday during the day, morning and afternoon. Right. And the price is £97.
Oh, wow.
People,
nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Not a lot for a lot of content. And what we do on that day is we start off in the morning, and I give you some insight into the precise mental techniques that I use to deal with cancer, and then and show you how to transfer those and use them in your property career or elsewhere if you wish. We have some lunch which is included in the day.
Wow.
And then we'll have an afternoon session where it's just open forum. You ask questions about any aspect of property finance, and I'll answer them. And then we have an afternoon tea break, and then the final session is that we I'll give you some insight into the concept of recycling your cash. Give you some stuff, takeaway stuff that you can go and use, and yeah. So, it's a highly valuable day. People say, at £97, it's brilliant value for money.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure you can get any better value for money than that.
So now the special offer.
Yeah,
for anyone that books, and we'll give you a code of Optimize.
Great.
To look on the site. If they look at that, if they use that code, that'll get them a £20 discount on that 97.
Wow. Okay. I just let everyone know, anyone listening to this, is as Optimize, we never take commission and we never take any kickbacks at all. So the offer is genuine. We only ask Kevin to kind of come onto this webinar because we believe that he's got absolute credibility, and the value that provides to you is worth investing into. So that's a personal pledge. We will never take commission. We'll never take kickbacks. It's purely because we think it's good value for you to get onto this course. And at £79 and you get lunch. I mean, some restaurants you pay $79 for lunch anyway. So you're going to get an education here as well, guys. So
absolutely.
Well, Kevin, thank you ever so much for joining us on this tonight's webinar. And hopefully we can get some guys to come and meet you in person, talk about your journey. But more, just as important is to kind of put a face to a name. So thank you ever so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. My pleasure.